This just keeps getting better for the Vikings as the 2025 NFL Draft is complete, and we now have a full glimpse at what this summer will look like, along with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah speaking on all the details involved with the draft. We're going to be breaking down all that in this episode of Vikings Digest, but first, if you're not a part of the nearly 1,200 subscribers and you want to help us reach that goal, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates when they drop. And with that, let's hop into the first topic of the day, which is Vikings 2025 draft class. So overall, you can look at the picks that the Vikings had. 5 picks right there, taking Donovan Jackson in the first round. If you want to check out our both of our videos, I should say, on that first round pick, you can go ahead and check those out. But then in the third round, we took wide receiver Ty Felton from Maryland. Super speedy guy. Was very impressed with his speed at the combine. Not just me speaking that, but also Kwesi Adofo-Mensah speaking on the speed that he will bring to the wide receiver room and used on special teams. You got Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins as a defensive tackle from Georgia, who can learn behind Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. Then you have Kobe King from Penn State, a linebacker that Kwesi was very high on and that they sought after very early on. And then you have Gavin Bartholomew, a tight end from Pittsburgh, as an anchor to go along with Josh Oliver and TJ Hawkinson. Now, is this to say that all these guys are for sure going to make the roster? Not necessarily. You could see some guys become practice squad guys at some point in the season or potentially step in if there's an injury. Of all the guys on this list, I would probably say that obviously Donovan Jackson, he probably will be a guaranteed starter. But Ty Felton, I think he could make his way in there for some wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3 snaps. Dawkins as well, he could be a very good injury replacement guy. And Kobe King as well, I think he's someone who we could see step in an injury spot. As far as Bartholomew, I think we are pretty much set there at tight end, and I think Dawkins is only going to be an injury reserve guy, I think, as well. So Kobe King and Dawkins, I think those guys are going to be the ones that might get the least amount of experience of the rookies that we brought in. But Ty Felton, I'm very excited to see what he's going to do on special teams. And obviously Donovan Jackson, that's the one that we brought in. That's the one that we were very hyped for. And now we have some extra insurance for JJ McCarthy. So overall, mixed reviews on the draft from insiders and analysts and all that. But at the end of the day, the Vikings did address the things that they needed to address. Kwesi said they wanted to bolster down the offensive line. We went out and did that in free agency and in the draft. We didn't assess our secondary issues necessarily, but Kwesi Adofo did touch on how they just trust in their secondary room. They trust in their safeties, so they didn't really feel a necessity to go out and get some guys. As far as speaking on the draft plan of what they were thinking, Kwesi was saying that every time you go into the offseason or any planning exercises, you set a vision, and then here are the names and options you have, and it comes down to what's the relative value of different options, and as well as the impact that they could make. We talked about how Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell have talked about impact. That has been the biggest thing that they want to focus on, is what players can bring an impact, not only on the field, but also off the field. We know that this Vikings culture is a top-notch culture in the NFL, always one of the most top voted cultures and organizations to be a part of. So bringing in a guy like that can bring in an impact on and off the field is huge for this Vikings squad, and they went out and got some guys that can for sure do that, and I can't wait to see what they do. I just wish that football season wasn't so far away and that we had to get through the mini camps, the OTAs, and all those things to get through to the regular season, but in due time, it will get here. I'm just so excited. I know you guys definitely are as well. And as far as the draft vision that Kwesi was talking on as well, he says, I think a lot of times people think we make an action. There's a series of events that led to that action. Even if you think of our draft day traits, it's 102, but we ended up getting 139 and 142, which was a plan to take those next steps. So all those connected things are musings that I think through. And I wake up and tell them to Kevin, and I tell them to my staff, and they say, you're right. There's new ones out there. It comes out in a vision. So obviously being a very collaborative draft process, Kwesi really leaning on his staff of scouts. He applauded them very highly in his post-draft press conference where he was going around all of the picks, and that's where these quotes are taken from. If you guys haven't seen it already, it's on the Vikings YouTube. You can see all the quotes and all the details that Kwesi was going into, how high he is on some of these draft picks, how excited he is to see how the veterans kind of mentor these newer guys, or what comes out in training camp as far as competition goes. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the Vikings draft as a whole. I think we went out and did some things that we needed to address as far as the offensive line. Would I have loved to have gotten Malachi Starks when we had the chance to get him? Absolutely. I think a lot of people were projecting the Vikings to do that. or to trade back and stack picks. We did eventually trade back at some point when we did get Sam Howell as our backup quarterback. It wasn't the backup quarterback we were expecting, but that's the backup quarterback that we got. But let us know what you guys have to say about this Vikings draft class and as far as the moves that we made at the draft. Do you guys like having Sam Howell as our backup quarterback? I know we didn't really touch on him except for just now, but there is going to be a video coming on that and the Vikings quarterback situation very soon, so stay tuned for that. But what grade would you guys give the Vikings overall draft class this season? Not just focusing on Donovan Jackson, focusing on everything as a whole and the undrafted free agents that we did sign. Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments below, but that's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is the 2025 undrafted free agents. So here's the first half of the list. The Vikings signed 19 undrafted free agents, so it's going to be a very competitive summer. If you want to take a look at some of the names here, you got an outside linebacker, you got wide receiver, you got Max Brosmer, who a lot of Minnesota fans, if you guys are in the state of Minnesota, I know you guys are very happy about this pick as bringing him in. I don't know if he's going to be able to steal that quarterback 3 position from Brett Rippon, but we shall see what comes of it. Then you have Oscar Chapman as well, a punter from Auburn, as a part of the International Player Pathway Program. And if you guys aren't familiar of what that is, it is the NFL. It is a program that the NFL created back in 2017 to provide elite international athletes with an opportunity to compete at the NFL level, improve their skills, and potentially earn a spot on an NFL roster. We've seen this happen in the past where you have players coming from Australia, New Zealand, and all around the globe. So it's amazing to see that the NFL is implementing programs like this where there are certain countries where they might not have the opportunities to get the looks that they were trying to get from scouts, or just playing against great competition. Ashton Janty's really been a trailblazer in that sense, where he grew up in Italy, played football in Italy, transitioned over to America very seamlessly, and was absolutely dominant as we saw him go very high in the draft. So there's a lot of great opportunities, and it goes to show that all the talent that's going into the NFL, it doesn't just need to be found in America. It can be found all over the globe, because football is becoming more and more an international sport as the game expands, with more international games all over the globe, going to Australia next year and many other countries being planned for the next few seasons and next season. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game grows internationally and the more players we bring in with it. And as well, if you guys want to see the other parts of the undrafted free agents that we brought in, you can take a look there. Very, very wide range of universities that we went from. A lot of Auburn ones, but we didn't go for a lot of the big ones that everyone goes for, the SEC. You do have your Georgia tight end there as well, but overall, Minnesota, for their main draft picks, they went with a lot of schools that weren't real, that are ones that kind of had more of an impact in the college season. You had teams like Ohio State. You had teams like Penn State. You have teams like Georgia, obviously. Maryland, they were a fairly solid team as well. Ty Felton was a standout on there as well. So overall, it was a pretty solid draft pick. And with all these undrafted free agents, yes, not all these guys are going to make the squad. It's ultimately, it has to get narrowed down to 53. Generally, teams go into mini camps and all that with about 70 to 75 players. So yes, it's going to get whittled down and it's going to be competitive, but that's going to be interesting to watch and see what footage comes out or what reviews come out of certain players and seeing the cutting process and how that goes. And when speaking on rookie evaluations, Kwesi was saying that I think that's how we evaluate players. If there's an opportunity, but just speaking on how they kind of take it player to player and not have a established way of evaluating guys. If there's an opportunity, how do they play? And while knowing that the players don't come in ready-made, that's not how it works in the NFL. Year one isn't how their career is written. That's not how we study them. That's not how anybody's career particularly goes. We prefer year one roles when they happen. It's always better to play earlier if possible, but we'll judge them kind of on a curve based on the opportunities in front of them. But again, there's some players here that we think should see the field in year one, and we're excited for it. Obviously, Kwesi does always back this up when we've seen a history of players that he's brought in. We've seen with Justin Jefferson how he didn't necessarily start right off the bat. It took until week 3 for him to burst out, and he absolutely did. JJ McCarthy was planned to be implemented into the game plan as the season went on. Unfortunately, injury did derail that. And then we saw with Dallas Turner as well last season, where he wasn't a main component of the defense, but he was still someone that they sprinkled in. He made an impact when he was there, and now he is a full-time starter for this Vikings defense, and that is exactly how Kwesi wanted it to go. So obviously these guys are not trying to thrust them into a starting role right away. It's just a matter of if they are ready, no matter what stage they're at in their career, whether it's year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, they're always going to make sure that whoever is getting that starting spot is the best guy for the job, whether it be a rookie, a veteran, a guy who's in the middle of his career, a guy who's just trying to bounce back. It is obviously a bunch of chances on this Minnesota roster for someone to stand out and make a case as to why they could be a starter over somebody that you might have expected to be the starter. So that's what's going to be interesting about watching how competitive it gets this training camp into preseason as we get closer to the regular season. I know we're pretty much set as far as quarterback goes right now, especially with Sam Howell being signed. That basically confirms that, yep, JJ McCarthy is QB1 no matter what kind of competition they try and do. If they had brought in Shedeur Sanders, maybe they would have had a competition, but that's all in the past now. He went to Cleveland after slipping so far in the draft. But with that, Minnesota, now the draft is behind us. Now the shift is on to the OTAs, the mini camps, all the training camps that we're going to be bringing you guys all those updates for. So stay tuned. The offseason does not stop. We went through the free agency period, the initial free agency period, went through the second wave. Now we're through the draft, and now it's on to OTAs, mini camp, training camp, all the way into the preseason. So this summer is going to fly by fast, but you guys won't want to miss any of the steps along the way. So make sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon so you can follow us along all off season as we get closer to next season, where we will hopefully see the Vikings bring a Lombardi trophy to the Twin Cities. But that's going to do it for this episode of Vikings Digest. Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments about their draft class, whether it be undrafted free agents or the main draft class. Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this episode of Vikings Digest. I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.